Hello, welcome to Philbert Flies. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, what it does, how to set it up, how to use it with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and what I think of it after using it for a week. Here's the Tobii Eye Tracker itself. It attaches to the bottom of your monitor and tracks the movement of your head and your eyes, and uses this to adjust the view in your game. In terms of flight simming, this means you can look around the cockpit in a very natural way, without having to right-click and drag, or use your hat switch or keyboard controls. Here you can see it in action as I fly a Cessna 152 through Snowdonia. The advantages of the Tobii Eye Tracker are pretty self-evident. I can glance down at my instruments, turn my head to look out of the side window to make sure I'm not getting too close to a mountain, and indeed look all the way around the aircraft's interior, all while keeping my hands firmly on the throttle and yoke. Setting the Tobii Eye Tracker up is quick and easy. You plug it in, attach it to your monitor, attachments are included for both flat and curved monitors, install the Tobii Experience app, and calibrate the eye tracker simply by looking at different bits of your screen as prompted. Microsoft Flight Simulator detects the Tobii Eye Tracker automatically, and you'll find it alongside your other controllers in the Controls Options screen. We're going to come back here later on to look at fine-tuning some of the settings for different scenarios, and to assign some useful keybinds. But the default settings work pretty well, so before we dive too deep, let's take a look at the Tobii Eye Tracker in action in the Reno air races. Welcome to Reno. I'm just doing a time trial in the T6. Now, I'm not an expert air racer by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the perfect place to show you the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 in action. So once we're onto the home straight, I will give you a rundown of exactly what the difference is between head tracking and eye tracking, and how you can use them together to give you an edge in a race, or just to make your life easier when you're bimbling around in a Cessna. So here I am, flying along straight and more or less level, and say I want to glance down at my instruments, all I need to do is look down, and there they are, I can see my lower instruments with ease. As we approach the corner, I'm going to turn my head to the left, and I'm going to have a look at the second pylon here, and I'm able to keep that in focus using a combination of head movements and eye movements, and it all feels very natural. Now you imagine trying to do a similar thing by right-clicking and dragging the mouse, and you can see just how much better this is. So we're about halfway through the second lap now, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to show you the range of movement. So if I turn my head to about 45 degrees to my left, I can look all the way behind me, and I can do the same to the right. Now, you probably wouldn't want to do this in an air race particularly, but if you were doing aerobatics, it would come in very handy, or even if you wanted to check the circuit breakers behind you in an airliner. So again, I'm focusing on where I'm going. I can see the line I need to take to get us through pylons 6 and 7 and back onto the home straight. For this next lap, I'm going to turn on Tobii Ghost, which is a little overlay that you can get for OBS Studio, or you can get it as an extension for Twitch, which allows your viewers to see exactly where you're looking. So you should be able to see now that I am focusing very firmly on pylon 2. And I'm going to glance down at my instruments. And now we're on another straight bit. I will just show you what happens when I keep my head still and look at the four corners of my screen. So top left, top right, and bottom left. And now I'm focusing on pylon 5. And now I'm moving my gaze to pylon 6 to try and get this radius as tight as possible. And that's another lap done with ease without ever losing sight of exactly where I want to head. The experience of flying an airliner is also much improved when using the Tobii Eye Tracker. It heightens your situational awareness and depth perception and makes you feel much more immersed in the cockpit environment. However, personally, I've found that tweaking a couple of settings makes it even better. I find having eye tracking enabled on an approach quite disorientating, particularly when it comes to glancing down at the PFD and back up again. This could just be because I haven't got used to it yet, and your mileage may vary, but if you do want to turn off eye tracking while keeping the head tracking, this is how you do it. In your controls options page, scroll across to Tobii and choose sensitivity. The very first slider defines how much emphasis the Tobii Eye Tracker places on tracking your eyes versus tracking your head. So if we move it to the left, then it's going to focus more on eye tracking, and if we move it to the right, it's going to focus more on head tracking. A value of 1 means that it won't track your eyes at all and will purely act as a head tracker. While we're here, let's have a look at some of the other options that you may wish to change. So we have various responsiveness and sensitivity settings for eye tracking and the different axes of head tracking, so pitch and yaw and roll. We also have a position sensitivity. Now, by default, this is set to 0, which means that the eye tracker will track your head when you look left and right and up and down, but not when you move your head. If you turn this on, or move the slider to the right, then you'll also be able to lean in and lean backwards and move your head to the left and the right within the cockpit environment, which I think is quite useful. So I tend to have that turned on. We also have a head tracking auto center option, which is either on or off, and I prefer to leave this on. But obviously you can have a play with all of these settings at your leisure. The point here is to show you just how customizable this product is. While we're in the controls options screen, there are 2 keybinds that I recommend you set. The first is toggle head tracking, which allows you to turn your Tobii Eye Tracker on or off, and I've got this assigned to F9. If you're doing a long flight, you might want to break from head tracking, you might just want a static view for a bit, and this allows you to do that. The second is eye tracking reset. If you change your position in your chair, for example, then your view will get out of sync, and pressing F12, in my case, resets it. So here we are back in the cockpit of the A320 with eye tracking turned off. I still have a full range of movement with head tracking, and additionally I can move my head to the right, to the left, forwards and backwards, and it tracks all of that beautifully.
500, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, 5.
So let me finish up by telling you my thoughts on the Tobii Eye Tracker, having used it for a week. Although this is a sponsored video, I will, as always, be giving you my honest opinion. I actually checked I was allowed to do this before agreeing to make it. Many of you will know that I've had a Track IR for many years, so this is my frame of reference. It's no exaggeration to say that the Tobii Eye Tracker beats it hands down in every regard. It's smoother, it feels more natural, and it gives you a greater range of movement. Not to mention the fact that you don't have to wear a ridiculous LED clip or hat while using it. The eye tracking is a great feature, and I found that the head and eye tracking work together to create a much more immersive experience than head tracking alone when flying light aircraft. In the airliners, as I mentioned earlier, I like to turn the eye tracking off and stick to head tracking, but that could just be me. The setup is quick and easy, and I'm impressed by how many customization options there are for it in MSFS. I've experienced 2 very minor issues with it. Firstly, I have had the odd occasion where it's done something a little funky with my views for a second or 2, which I assume was due to light interference. This has happened far less frequently with my Tobii Eye Tracker than with my Track IR, however. It just doesn't seem to be affected by bright light to the same extent, and, unlike with Track IR, I haven't had to close my blinds to fly a plane once. Secondly, during my initial calibration, I found that it didn't recognise where I was looking with my glasses on. I took them off, did the calibration without them, and have worn them ever since without issue, including during the recalibration I filmed for this video. So yes, in spite of these very minor negative points, I'm very, very impressed with it. It's a really great product, and if you're looking for a more immersive flight sim experience, I'd highly recommend buying one. You can even get 10% off if you use the link in the video description. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can let me know your thoughts in the comments either way. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Filbert Flies.